who are in the field of education. Daily, we have been faced with different issues and challenges to ensure that the students under our care are given proper care and support so that they have a well-rounded education. Today's webinar is titled Student Affairs and Services in the New Normal, Challenges, Realities, and Opportunities. This webinar has come at the right time and out of what we see has happened around us and how the many different people in our fields have handled the situation differently. Thank you to the 8 distinguished speakers who have agreed to present to us today. I hope that through each of their talks, we will be able to benefit from it and use some of these practices in our institutions. And I'm quite sure too that many of us will be nodding in agreement at the common issues we have been facing, though in different parts of the world. In APSSA, we are given this opportunity and platform to serve not just our students, but all the members in sharing, networking, and collaborating with each other. We wish we were all physically present to meet together for this year's conference, but unfortunately, this is not possible. But I thank the Lord that because of the technology, we can still meet today. And not only that, we can have so many of you here today who have registered, about 650 registrants from 287 institutions from 16 countries. It would have been possible to have so many of you present if the conference was held physically. To have so many people present would not be possible. We had this conference, this webinar live. Thank you to all of you for being here today. Once again, thank you for your participation, and I look forward to learning from all of you. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much, Ms. Angela Pok. Thank you for your service to APSSA for the past 2 years, for your guidance and for the leadership. And I'm sure everyone will still be looking forward to having your continued support to the group in the years to come also, as long as you are still here in education and as long as you are here serving the students in many different areas. So as I mentioned earlier, we're going to try and take a photo. So at the moment, there's about 245 participants in the room. So what you can do is if you can turn on your cameras at the moment, and if you can smile for us for the camera, just hold your pose for a while. So because we have to take a few snapshots of a few screens, so it will take us just a couple of minutes. So if you can turn on your cameras and you can get your hair ready, get your face your smile ready, put on your best face. I'm going to take a few photos and which we'll be using later on also. So just bear with us for a few seconds, a few minutes as we take these pictures, and also as a few more people actually start coming into the room. All right? Okay, smile for the camera, yeah? Keep smiling, because we don't know when your face will appear on the screen. So I need you all to just keep smiling or show me whatever face that you have, and I'll take a snapshot. We are taking a snapshot of the different pictures and we will put it up later. Okay, just two more minutes for us to do it. Almost there, halfway through. 250 participants at the moment. Thank you for your smiles. Thank you for being here today. And if you have just joined us, we're actually taking a group picture of all the participants. So if you can turn on your camera and you can smile, that would be great so that we can capture you and show your face later on. And my last picture, I'm going to take the last one. You can smile, and then after this, you can breathe a sigh of relief now. We are done with the photos. Thank you very much, everyone, for smiling for the camera and for being here today. And for those of you who have just joined us, welcome again to today's APSSA webinar. And we are glad to have many participants today from all over the world. And without wasting any more time, I'm going to pass the time over soon to Dr. Leandro. Dr. Leandro he's currently, I was checking out, he's actually the national president of the Philippine Association of Student Affairs and Services, APSSA, and also he's a member of the executive committee for APSSA. He's also director of College Students Affairs at De La Salle University in the Philippines. He will be moderating today's webinar, and Dr. Leandro will be assisted by Dr. Jonathan Munro from Griffith University, who will be his timekeeper. So, Dr. Leandro, the stage is yours. I'm passing the time over to you.
All right, thank you very much, Joshua. And thank you also to our APSSA president, Ms. Angela Pope, for that very concise and clear description of the rationale and objective of our session for today. Surely this activity is very timely as we intend to share the different best practices of different higher education institutions in the Asia-Pacific region. So as mentioned, we will be listening to the experiences and insights of our colleagues on the challenges, realities, and opportunities of the new normal in student affairs and services of our invited panelists. We have 8 panelists representing their home country. Each of them is given 7 minutes to share, and Dr. Jonathan, like what Joshua mentioned, will be helping me in keeping the time. So if you have any questions, you may type them in our chat box, and we will go over them later on. So let me first give you a rundown of who our guest panelists are. We will have our first batch coming from Australia, China, Hong Kong SAR, and Japan. So our first panelist is the president of the Australian and New Zealand Student Services Association Incorporated, or ANZA, which supports professional staff working in post-secondary education to enhance student engagement, participation, well-being, and development. She has led student services portfolios in higher education for over 10 years and has worked in the student services industry for over 16 years. She is currently the Interim Director of Safety and Security at the University of Southern Queensland in Australia, where her portfolio includes driving community safety and well-being. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you Dr. Christy White from Australia. All right, next to Dr. Christy is our representative from China, Professor Wu Haifeng. He comes from the China University of Geosciences in Wuhan. At present, he works at the Student Affairs Office. He majored in ideological and political education and got his postgraduate diploma and master's degree. Working as a director of Student Affairs Office, he was granted with the title of Associate Researcher. He also acted as the Secretary of the College of Arts and Media, Secretary of the Library at the Yifu Museum and the Archives, and Deputy Director of the Organization Department and Director of the Admissions Office. His research area covers both ideological and political education on university students and the management of university student affairs. So, ladies and gentlemen, from China, Professor Wu Haifeng. Third is our representative, our guest panelist from Hong Kong SAR. Ms. Jamie Chow is the chairperson of the Hong Kong Student Services Association, or the HKSSA. She has also chaired the Outstanding Student Service Awards Committee of the HKSSA for 6 years in a row. For over 3 decades, she devotes herself as an agent for student success. Working as the Assistant Director of Student Affairs in the Education University of Hong Kong, Jamie creates opportunities for students to build successful experience through services she has been responsible for, including support for new students, non-local students and student organizations, administration of scholarships, award schemes and financial assistance, as well as management of student halls and sports facilities. Alongside student empowerment works, crisis management is another area Jamie frequently involved with. No matter the scale of crisis, a humanistic approach supported by fast, accurate, and direct actions are key success factors. Balance has to be struck between students, various offices, and the senior management, which are all stakeholders of the university. Our third speaker is Jamie Chow from Hong Kong SAR. And our fourth speaker for the first batch is our panelist from Japan. Dr. Michiko Izumitani was born in Matsuyama, Ehime Prefecture, and attended the City University of New York to study psychology. After graduation, she became involved in English education and various volunteer activities and local civic actions. After giving birth to 3 kids, she started graduate studies to research methods for developing human resources. Since 2008, she has been involved in leadership and cross-cultural studies and teaches psychology mainly at Ehime and Matsuyama University. She has developed and implemented more than 16 leadership development programs worldwide. In July 2016, she established Nourish Japan LLC with the goal of creating a sustainable society by bridging Japanese firms and foreign firms. Our fourth speaker from Japan, Dr. Michiko Izumitani. So we have a really good lineup of speakers for today for our first batch. So without any further ado, let us start our discussion and our sharing with our first speaker from Australia, Dr. Christy White. Dr. Christy White, take it away, please.
Thank you very much for that introduction. I appreciate that. Thank you for the introduction. As per Australian protocol, in commencing, I would like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the lands that we're meeting on today across many places on the earth today. I'm certainly joining you from Guyabal and Jarrawa lands in Toowoomba, Queensland, Australia. I pay my respects to all elders past, present and emerging in your respective areas of your countries. I also want to acknowledge APSSA for putting on a fantastic initiative under some challenging circumstances, and to have the numbers that have been engaging with this particular seminar today so far, and the numbers that are still joining us. That is an extraordinary feat for your association. I do come from a sister organisation in Australia and New Zealand, ANZA, more affectionately known as ANZA, and I'm really honoured to be speaking to you all today. I thought I would kickstart by talking a little bit about the Australian higher education context for those of you who may not have a strong understanding of higher education in Australia. In front of you, the left graph gives you an indication of the growth in student numbers that has occurred in Australian higher education between 2008 and 2017. What's really exciting for Australia has been the growth in students from diverse backgrounds. So moving away from the elite nature of higher education in Australia, which was previously known to be the case, we now have an increase of 123% of students with disability over that time period. Our students from low socioeconomic backgrounds have increased by 66%. And in Australia, that's something we're really, really proud of moving forward. The right graph shows you an indication of our international student contribution to our higher education system. The graph shows the reach and the spread that where our international students come from, demonstrating very clearly there that China, India and Southeast Asia are major pockets of or regions where our students come from when they come to Australia to study higher education. International students, and this is an important point for later when I talk about something else, their fees, the revenue from international students in the Australian higher education context can contribute between 8% or even up to 38% of revenue for individual universities in Australia. So as you can see, they are a major contributor to our economy and what we're trying to achieve in terms of our education in Australia. The other thing I'd like to let you know is we do have 40 Australian universities in Australia, and in amongst those, about 1.5 million students were studying in 2019. So that gives you an idea of how Australian higher education sits in our country. Now, as per the title of this webinar is we are going to talk about the challenges, and I'm pleased we get to talk about that first, because I think we've got a lot of positives to talk about despite the many, many challenges the world has faced to date. But in the Australian context, our higher education institutions are anticipated to receive a sector loss of up to $16 billion between now and the year 2023. That's a significant revenue loss for our sector, and you can only imagine the impacts that is going to impose on our ability to do what we do in terms of research, learning and teaching and community engagement. We've also seen, obviously, an incredible drop in international students in 2020 as a result of the global situation. And we've had disruption, and I know I'm not speaking as if we're the only ones that have experienced this, but we've experienced disruption to our teaching and learning models, how we deliver services. We've had closure of campuses when government restrictions were in place to try and curb the virus spreading. And then we've had the disruption of having to manage the restrictions when we are returning to our workplaces and our learning environments. Students, of course, have faced significant financial stress, particularly with job losses as the economy was shutting down to, again, curb the virus. There are students who are international students who are trapped in Australia and unable to return home, who feel a sense of isolation. And then there's our domestic students who feel isolated from their peers because of not being able to attend campuses and study. And of course, the well-being is a major issue for everyone in the globe in terms of how they're coping with the current state. Our practitioners are not immune to this. There's been an increased demand for services, obviously, to receive support around the situation, and they have been exposed to vicarious trauma and compassion fatigue. Here they are going through their own challenges, yet and trying to support students doing the same. And we've had to question, are our services fit for purpose in a remote operating environment where we're not on campus, and are we actually competent enough to do what we need to do? So let's talk about the reality of the situation across the sector. The student experience, no doubt, has changed significantly, and we continue to manage the risks of COVID-19, watching where the virus is and protecting our university communities. We've had major adjustment issues, but for both staff and students to transition to an online teaching model or a blended model, and students having to adjust to that learning as well. We've had well-being and waiting lists increase. We're managing the business as usual as we go. And for Australia, it's predicted that up to 21,000 permanent staff members will be retrenched over the next 6 months as a result of the reduction in revenue in higher education. Very frightening numbers when you're trying to see how you continue to deliver services when numbers are expected to drop in staffing. But fortunately, this webinar is allowing us to talk about the opportunities, and I'm going to be brave enough to say that with every disruption comes great opportunity to break the mold in how we do our business and how we deliver our services. I could talk all day, but I'm going to run a high-level overview of some of the high-level things that have been going on in Australia. We're reappraising our service delivery and how we're doing learning and teaching. It's a great time to take stock of that. We are looking at a world now where teams are closer together. We're using Zoom just like today. We're using Microsoft's software and other software that's bringing teams together in the digital world, making the world a much smaller place for us to operate. Our services are generally more accessible now because we've had to move them online. So no matter where someone is geographically placed, we're able to deliver services where some practitioners may not have been entirely comfortable in delivering, and that's online counselling. Increased engagement with our students. We're doing more welfare checks now, and we're raising the profile of the support services. We're delivering financial assistance programs to students to help support their learning and living costs while they're navigating this space. We've seen advancements in career services and employability initiatives by doing things online, coffee catch-ups with employers. And also our practitioners are connecting just like we are today in a much easier way that is low cost, but still connecting to share professional practice and what's working and what's not. We in Australia had a thing called COVID conversations, which worked really effectively. And of course, the opportunities for student development through this phase has been outstanding. A couple of last comments from me. Key learnings in Australia. These are my learnings of which I've been talking about over the last few months. We have learnt to be agile, and agility is really important for the future, regardless of what environment we're moving into. Adaptability is critical to our success. And student practitioner resilience is another thing that I think I personally underestimated, but the sheer workload and the effort by practitioners to support our students and our students surviving in the face of significant challenges has been outstanding. And to use Australian slang, also known as, they're just awesome. And awesome in Australia is basically meaning they are great, wonderful people who are doing a brilliant job, both staff and practitioners alike. So this is a very quick snapshot from me of the Australian context. I'm happy to engage with you further, either online or in future contexts. And thank you for the opportunity, APSSA.
All right. Thank you very much, Dr. Christie, for that sharing. Wow, I would like to consider that term awesome. That's a really nice way of putting it together, right? Despite all the experiences, we are still awesome people, right? Okay, so let's move on now to our next speaker for today. May I invite our speaker from China, our panelist from China, Professor Dr. Wu Haifan.
Dear Chairman, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. I'm Wai Feng from the China University of Geosciences, Wuhan. It's my great honor to attend and address the conference of the Asia Pacific Student Service Association. Here, I will exchange and share our views with all participants. Nowadays, the impact of the COVID-19 epidemic on the whole world is gradually expanding, affecting politics, economic, culture, and other various fields. Higher education is also taking a hit. Under the circumstances, students' affairs and service will inevitably confront with new challenges and grim realities. Whereas it also brings opportunities for reform and innovation. Therefore, with the forced transformation of higher education, the ideas, paradigms, and methods of students' affairs and service research will undergo changes, realizing a new leap in discourse system. At present, China has achieved a major strategic success in the nationwide coronavirus prevention and control and has entered the normal mode of epidemic prevention and control. On the new normal, we actively explored an accurate plan and adapt to the specific methods, times, and world trends and implement it into epidemic prevention and control. Through investigation and research, students' troubles can be accurately identified, and precise support measures can be customized to ensure the effectiveness of dialogues and realize a good interaction between subject and object. On the basis of guaranteeing students' life and health, we have focused on students' thoughts and worries, taking care of students' psychological troubles, academic and employment difficulties to match their needs to expectation. We have met the requirement of 5 reinforcement to provide them with accurate services, so as to ensure the smooth progress of students' affairs and service under the new normal. Forming security guarantee to strengthen responsibility management. Since the outbreak of epidemic, a total of 62 students were stranded in our campus. We have made overall plans on the daily management and service guarantee for students. We have arranged accommodation for the stranded students in a reasonable way, strengthened the daily management, guaranteed the supply, and conducted personal protection education. With regard to the issues of the master students and graduates returning to school, the Student Affairs Office have collected the students' health information and formulated the preparation plan in a scientific way. First, the plan for students returning to school in batches we have constituted precisely. Classified management measures were adapted to ensure the epidemic prevention work in all sections. Second, ensuring that the reserve of anti-epidemic supplies and living materials are sufficient. The quarantine area has been prepared. Meanwhile, the delicacy management and the daily management has been strengthened to know the health condition and the locations of students well. In order to manage the campus better after students return to school and effectively optimize the regular anti-epidemic prevention and control measures, we have implemented a grid management plan In accordance with the overall idea of the four-level prevention and control responsibility system, participation students into grades by university, college, class, dormitory, and assign the responsibility of the grades to personal level, avoiding any potential risks. Focusing on the system construction to reinforce psychological assistance. On the one hand, an emergency psychological counseling and support system has been established. Individual counseling or group counseling was conducted online or over the phone, targeting at students who are anxious about the graduate employment, have difficulties in learning and struggles in life, who suffer a strained relation with family members, and who endure panic about COVID-19 epidemic. By this, a multi-level and multi-channel emergency psychological support system has been established. On the other hand, special attention has been paid to the recovery and the restructuring of students' mental health after epidemic. After COVID-19 epidemic, universities should deeply improve the construction of students' psychological education as for students' affairs, and then carry out mental health training and education in accordance with the before, during, after these three-phase related emergency, offering various support to enhance academic guidance. During the suspension of classes, we have arranged online education tasks for the new semester in accordance with requirement of keep teaching and learning during class suspension. Cooperation with the education authorities was strengthened to ensure students' online learning. First, teachers were required to slow down the pace of teaching and refine the teaching content. Second, internet traffic subsidies were provided for
Dr. Leandro.
All right, I think we are having some technical difficulties on the side of Professor Wu Haifan. Okay. But yeah, he's in the middle of sharing very important action points that they have done in their institution. But maybe we can just go back to him again later on. I think we can just, hello, Professor Wu. Yeah, I think there's really a problem on his end. All right, but anyway, maybe we can just move on and continue with our next panelist. But yeah, what Professor Wu was sharing was very interesting, considering also that they were the epicenter of this pandemic, right? So I know that everybody would really want to know what are the action points that they have shared. But yeah, because of some technical difficulties, maybe we can just move on and continue that later. So may I call on now our panelist from Hong Kong SAR, Ms. Jamie Chow.
Hi, everyone. This is Jamie. First of all, I would like to give a big thank to APSSA for organizing the webinar today so that we can share our experience in the handling of the pandemic for students and staff welfare. So let me share my screen with all of you. Yes, so actually the past 1.5 years is unprecedented for Hong Kong. I would like to share with you how Hong Kong moves on no matter what. The COVID-19 pandemic has rocked the whole world, and Hong Kong is no exception. What's more to us is that we are impinged by the compound effect of social incidents happened since last June. The month-long protests last year divided the society. coupled with the extended restriction of social life because of the pandemic, emotion has long been suppressed. Universities were operated under the closed and open mode last autumn term, followed by suspension of in-person classes because of the outbreak. Most of our first and second year students have not attended face-to-face classes since they joined universities. They have no idea of what exactly university campus life is about. So bridging students with the university community is of priority in Hong Kong, especially for the first and second year students. While it is understandable that most students wish to resume normal as soon as possible, the highly dense student hostel and insufficient campus space in Hong Kong make social distancing and provision of on-campus quarantine highly challenging. How to reopen the campus safely and orderly is an area that we must carefully look into. Well, with all these challenges in front of Hong Kong, the 1-2 punch also brought us opportunities at the same time. So when COVID-19 struck Hong Kong, most students, including international students, were not on campus because of class suspension, which make health and safety control much easier for us. We can also adapt the crisis management protocols in place last year for the new situation swiftly. And university members are already on high vigilance before the arrival of COVID-19. Moreover, the social incidence has also advanced to the online learning and teaching move, as well as the student support services. The experience we gained contributed to the planning of student affairs work this year. Following slides are some of the initiatives to support students since the outbreak of COVID-19 in Hong Kong. Please bear with me if you find them similar to what you have been doing. First of all, to safeguard the health and safety of our campus community, many universities give out surgical masks to staff and students, and wearing of surgical masks is a must on all university campuses in Hong Kong. As a precautionary measures, many medical clinics on campus set up outdoor holding area for consultation of those who have developed fever and other respiratory syndrome. Symptoms, sorry. For health and wellness of students on campus, online medical consultation and telecare services on confidential platforms to listen to what students' worries are provided. We also have relief funds established to support students with family being affected financially by COVID-19, like being laid off or asked for taking part-time jobs. Refunds of hostel fees was offered for students who opt to withdraw from hostel due to the pandemic. Subsidies for students to arrange off-campus quarantine before they return to hostels from overseas are also available. COVID-19 has significantly impacted on the job market. Some university matches graduates' salary for a certain period of time, while others create time-limited on-campus job opportunities for fresh graduates to tide over the difficult periods. After months of online learning, students missed peer interaction and group activities. Virtual fitness training and award scheme were launched to promote exercise at home. Likewise, campus community services at home or online were also organized. To engage students, we arrange online welcoming to when they start their semester, chit-chatting with fellow both locally and overseas via Zoom, small group online games, etc. so that they can still engage even though they are not on campus. Well, after all, I believe we are all doing something similar around the world. The core message of my presentation today is back to basic. We move on through sharing of best practices platform like the webinars today. And then we set up specific, in Hong Kong, we also set up area-specific WhatsApp group to encourage professional exchange during this testing period. We organize seminar and workshop for professional development and to support staff to get their job done during this difficult time. And to maintain close partnership with university worldwide, like through platforms like APSSA. So once again, let's work together and move on no matter what. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for that sharing, Ms. Jamie. That's very interesting also to know. And probably most of our participants have noted how they also relate to those responses that you have done also in Hong Kong.
Yes.
Okay. All right, so let's move on now to our fourth speaker for the first batch, our panelist from Japan. Ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Michiko Izumi-tan.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for the introduction, and I'm so honored to be given this opportunity to share our practice to the participants. And let me share my screen. My name is Michiko Izumitani from, can you see my screen okay? Yes? All right. I'm from the company called Nourish Japan. I'm going to share the promotion of the employment of foreign students, which I'm actively involved. Let me start by introducing myself. My background is organizational psychology and has been teaching leadership, diversity management, and career development in universities. I also run a company that does HR business and trading. We import ice cream from the US. Oops. This is the program we run at Ehime University. This is a 5-year program of the Ministry of Education for enhancing the employment of international students in Japan. 12 universities nationwide were chosen to run the program, and Ehime University, where I belong, is one of them. We provide courses on business Japanese language skills, career education, and internship activities. This program is supposed to be operated within the form of consortium, consists of university, local governments, and economic organizations. This consortium works closely with local private companies and other organizations for creating learning opportunities for students to cultivate their employability. The government is aiming at raising the employment rate of international students in Japan from 30% as of 2017 to 50%. We have almost reached the 40% last year, but the number is expected to drop because of the pandemic. Oops. Sorry. And let me give you some background of the government's effort for the promotion of foreign human resources. This is a figure from 2018. And this shows the estimated demand and the supply on the labor market in 2030. It shows that the worker shortage in Japan would hit 6.4 million. Over a decade, the government made effort to increase the number of foreign workers by revising laws and encouraging universities and companies to accept more foreign laborers. And today, one in less than every 50 people, employee, is said to be non-Japanese. Then the COVID-19 hit Japan. As shown here, the ratio of job openings to applicants dropped, and the unemployment rate and the number of unemployed have increased. Japan's unemployment rate is low compared to the numbers of other developed nations, but some experts predict that the number could go as high as 6%. So far, only about 30% of international university students graduating this coming March have received job offers, which is very low compared to how it usually is. However, because we are an aging society with a third of its population over 65 and a small working population, Japan has become increasingly reliant on foreign labor. So the trend of welcoming foreign people is set to continue. So we are still making effort conducting classes online. Students are working on projects using Zoom and the tools called Miro, and some students were able to participate on-site internship activities during this summer. And here is a very unique and creative project that Gunma University, one of the national university in Japan, organized this summer with the private company and other universities. It was online internship aiming to promote employment of international students in Gunma Prefecture and to promote overseas sales of local companies. 16 students from different universities in the prefecture participated. There are 4 steps. At first, international students and local business owners and employees who want to promote overseas sales gather and learn business strategies and intercultural communication and business ethnography. Then the students virtually visit companies that they are assigned in order to learn about the products and the manufacturing process. This is the online internship part. Then they discuss with the owners and employees to create strategies for a business, overseas business. Japan may not be the best place for education and working. The wage is said to be lower compared to other developed countries, but it's a good place to prepare for career. Japanese society and the organizations are becoming more open for people with different cultural backgrounds, including women, challenged people, aged people, and foreigners. Of course, we still have issues, especially with young people's mental health. I talked about the issue and how Japanese universities are coping with the issue in the video clip that I created for the this APSSA seminar. And please contact me if you are interested in working with Japanese university to support a students' career development. And this, I'm closing my session with the note of thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Vinchiko, for that presentation. I think the framework is going to be very helpful, especially many are having a hard time on how to go about with the internship of our students. Okay, all right, now maybe we can go back to our representative from China, Professor Wu, so that he can finish his sharing. Professor Wu? All right, I think your connection is better now.
Okay. Thank you. I will continue. Offering various supports to enhance academic guidance. During the suspension of classes, we have arranged online education tasks for the new semester in accordance with the requirement to keep teaching and learning during ensure students online learning. Fourth, teachers will require to slow down and the pace of teaching and to refine the teaching content. Second, the internet traffic subsidies will take care of the students provide for students studying in remote areas without Wi-Fi access. Third, various support activities were provided for learning during the academic periods. Put students first by funding the needs one. After outbreak of COVID-19, many students whose family were suffering with hardships have become worse off for the decreased family income. In order to carry out targeted poverty alleviation, staff members of Students' Affairs Office have made a timely survey on students' financial difficulties during the epidemic. By offering temporary subsidies and special party membership dues, we have effectively eased the living difficulties of the needy students. For those students who were diagnosed with COVID-19, we have contacted the Students' Safety Insurance Company to open green channel for claim settlement and one-on-one services. Meanwhile, we negotiated with branch of Bank of China in Hongshan District, Wuhan, to make proper arrangements for students to adjust their repayments of state-subsidized students' loan, so that to truly alleviate their pressure during the epidemic. Optimize cooperation of services to strengthen employment assessment. For one thing, our working methods have been innovated to improve the effectiveness of students' employment. An employment assistant working mechanism that, led by a university, cooperates with alumni and is college-centered, has been established in order to provide students with customized one-on-one services. For another, we have abandoned the inherent traditional thinking and optimized the entrepreneurial service system. Based on the internet thinking, the entrepreneurship service system has been established to optimize the support of students' innovation and entrepreneurship, promote students' employment and entrepreneurship guidance, and provide better and more professional service for innovation and entrepreneurship. Throughout the outbreak of epidemic, Students' Affairs and Service in China University of Geoscience Wuhan stood the test. We realized zero COVID-19 case among all stranded students, ensure all of our students return to the campus in safety, so that all students' health and security were fully guaranteed. Actually, the above student affairs and service measures were not only adopted by China University of Geoscience, but are common efforts made by most University of China and the new normal to prevent and control the outbreak of COVID-19. That's all. Thank you for your attention.
All right, thank you very much, Professor Wu, and also to our team there in Wuhan, China. Hello to everyone, sending our regards. All right, so that's the first batch of our panelists for today, and I would like to share also some salient points that I got from their presentations, from their sharing. First is that they have actually validated the responsiveness of the Student Affairs and Services and the university administration in this time of pandemic. Second is the priority of, or setting the priority for students' health, wellness, and well-being, which is actually, a sense of being true to the function of Student Affairs and Services also. They have also emphasized or highlighted the importance of engaging students through different activities online, whether online, and providing, accessibility to online classes and online activities. And lastly is that everyone is really moving forward. And while moving forward, they are maintaining a positive outlook on it. And that's very good. All right. So now maybe we can move on to the next batch of our panelists, and let me first introduce to you our representatives from the Philippines, Malaysia, Singapore, and Thailand. Of course, from the Philippines is our very own Commissioner from the Commission on Higher Education, Dr. Alvin A. Verilag. He serves as the Commission by progressively leading the advancement of a wide array of relevant and timely disciplines in higher education. Commissioner Verilag is grounded in his beliefs that progressive advancements in higher education can be achieved by holistically supporting higher education institutions to be of service to faculty and students by reflecting on previous policies and experiences, by collaborating with agencies, both public and private, local and international, and by having a more refined foresight to prepare students regardless of ethnicity, gender, socioeconomic status, and religion for the world of tomorrow. He is also a champion of flexible learning and also leads the promotion of cultural education and higher education. From the Philippines, Commissioner Dr. Alvin A. Darila. Next to him will be our panelist from Malaysia, Professor Dr. Azizan Abdullah. He earned his PhD from Cardiff University in Wales, and he's got a Master of Science in Productivity and Quality Improvement and a Bachelor in Agricultural Science, also from Cardiff University in Wales, UK. Currently, he is the Deputy Vice Chancellor for Student Affairs at the University of Technology, Mara, and he also serves as a faculty of the Department of Marketing, Retailing and Entrepreneurship at the Faculty of Business and Management of University of Technology, Mara. Ladies and gentlemen, Professor Dr. Azizan Abdullah from Malaysia. Third, and actually for this batch, we have two students, okay, who will also be sharing their experiences. And first we have from Singapore, Mr. Richard Wang Kai. Richard is the immediate past president of the National University of Singapore Students' Union, or NUSSU. Apart from his presidency, Richard held several leadership appointments in the university and the Singapore youth communities. During the pandemic, Richard assured welfare of over 30,000 undergraduates by working actively alongside the university management, other institutes of higher learning counterparts, and sometimes the government. From Singapore, Mr. Richard Wang Kai. And last but not the least, of course, another student coming from Thailand is Ms. APSSA Saeli. Sarah is a Thai Chinese student studying international affairs at the Faculty of Political Science and Public Administration of Chiang Mai University in Thailand. She was awarded the Royal Award at tertiary level in 2019 and the Chiang Mai University Excellent Student Award also in 2019. APSSA's academic training spans international affairs, printmaking arts, and religion studies. She has been privileged with rich and diverse cultural environments through experiences growing up in an orphanage, participating in a student exchange program at the University of Malaya, and attending public speaking contests nationally and internationally, as well as volunteering in Malaysia with Rohingyas children and in Thailand with children in residential care. Her interdisciplinary interests have equipped her with understanding and depth as she draws implications from social, political, economic, cultural, and religious dimensions. From Thailand, Ms. APSSA Saeli. All right, so let me now give the floor to our panelists from the Philippines, our Commissioner of the Commission on Higher Education, Dr. Alvin A. Darila.
Thank you very much for the very kind introduction, Dr. Loyola. I would like to recognize the following: Ms. Angela Poc, the President of the Asia Pacific Student Services Association, or APSSA. To the honorable panelists across Asia Pacific, Dr. Christy White, Mr. Wu-Fu Haifeng, Ms. Jamie Chow, Dr. Aziza Abdullah, Associate Professor Michiko Izumitani, Mr. Richard Wang Kai, and Ms. APSSA Saeli, and to Dr. Leandro Loyola, the National President of the Philippine Association of Practitioners of Student Affairs and Services, our participants today, school administrators, practitioners of Student Affairs and Services, researchers, faculty and staff, and most importantly, our students. Good morning to all of you. Today's session is an urgent call for collaboration and academic exchange. As we may know, COVID-19 has disrupted not only the macro level societal fabric, which we all involved in, but also the very depths of our psycho-emotional well-being. A position paper from Europe entitled Multidisciplinary Research Priorities for the COVID-19 Pandemic notes that a major adverse consequence of the COVID-19 pandemic is likely to increase social isolation and loneliness, strongly associated with anxiety, depression, self-harm, and suicide attempts. As to the Philippines, the World Health Organization reported that even before the pandemic, the Philippines already had one of the highest rates of depression in the Southeast Asia, affecting more than 3 million Filipinos. The Philippine Department of Health notes that pre-COVID, there are around 88 cases of mental health problems for every 100,000 Filipinos. Because of the pandemic, Filipinos have also been doing more phone calls to seek mental health assistance, averaging from 30 to 35 calls per day from the month of March to May 2020, compared to 13 to 15 calls daily from May 2019 to February 2020, as reported by the Philippine National Center for Mental Health. Given the toll on mental health and well-being that the pandemic has brought upon ordinary Filipinos, access to mental health care, including essential continuing care and the provision of psychosocial support services, must be accessible and made available to all Filipino free of charge. As our schools transition to flexible learning, schools have the moral responsibility to be places of public service and contribute to this national agenda of prioritizing mental health by implementing student affairs and services through flexible modalities. The Philippine Commission on Higher Education believe that the continuity of learning should go hand in hand with the continuity of the delivery of student affairs and services. As defined in the CHED Memorandum Order Number 9, Series of 2013, Student Affairs and Services, or SAS, includes three main facets. First, student welfare services. Second, student development services. And third, institutional student programs and services. Student welfare services are basic services and programs needed to ensure and promote the well-being of our students. These services include: first, information and orientation services. Second, guidance and counseling services. Next, we have career and job placement services. Fourth, economic enterprise development. And fifth, student handbook development. Student development services refer to the services and programs designed for the exploration, enhancement, and development of the student's full potential for personal development, leadership, and social responsibility through various institutional and student-initiated activities. These services include student organizations and activities, providing leadership training, supporting student councils and governments, promoting positive student discipline, and supporting student publications and yearbooks. Institutional student programs and services refer to those designed to proactively respond to the basic health, food, shelter, and safety concerns of all types of students, including those with special needs. And these services include: first, admission services. Second, scholarship and financial assistance. Third, food services. Next is health services. And we have safety and security services, student housing and residential services, multi-faith services, foreign international student services, services for students with special needs and persons with disabilities, cultural and arts programs, sports development programs, and social and community involvement programs. Given the critical importance of student affairs and services to our learners and institutions, the Commission organized a number of workshops and public consultations on the continuance of these activities, even at the time of the pandemic. The Commission foresees a decentralized, contextualized, gender-sensitive, and participatory mechanism towards flexible student affairs and services. Our policy directions gear towards the following. First, empowering our respective colleges and universities to craft their respective flexible student affairs and services initiatives. Second, establishing and maintaining their respective electronic databases for easier dissemination of documents and information. Third, supplementing the respective student handbooks with flexible student affairs and services programs. Fourth, conducting the respective student orientations on flexible student affairs and services. Fifth, helping our colleges and universities to institutionalize mechanisms to closely monitor the academic performance, mental health, and psychosocial well-being of students during the implementation of flexible learning. Sixth, ensuring compliance on ethical standards and data privacy of students, especially regarding personal and confidential information. Seventh, leveraging the safe use of social media platforms, hotlines, and SMS for efficient dissemination of information to students and faculty. And lastly, encouraging our institutions to forge partnership and collaborations with other agencies to deliver student affairs and services to all students and the community at large. Program-wise, the Philippine Commission positions itself to be responsive and adaptive to the changing needs of our learners in this time of pandemic. Our colleges and universities have launched webinars and discussions, established hotlines and various programs, and made assessment less cumbersome. The Commission has also given financial grants to colleges and universities to support their implementation of psychosocial support and services to our students. As we continue designing our policies and action plans, we remember that everyone in the education landscape might also need psychosocial support to deal with our emotions as we brave through this pandemic. We propose 3 modalities. First is the word connect. As this pandemic necessitated social distancing, let us be reminded that we are not alone with how we feel. Let us continue connecting with our families and friends, colleagues and mentors, and with ourselves, so that we may also be able to deal with others and heal alongside them. Second, contribute. As this pandemic may also render us helpless, we might feel a bit more positive if we are able to bring back some sort of contribution to managing the crisis we are faced with. We can continue launching donation drives, volunteering, or helping in the household so that we may be able to externalize and translate our inner energies towards creating concrete outputs. Third, compassion. Let us be kinder to ourselves and others. Let us continue asking and lending an ear and carving out time to those who especially need a personal to talk and reach to. Mental health is indeed a concern that is real and serious, especially in this time of a pandemic. This concern should not only be the responsibility of the government, but of the whole community. Again, I congratulate APSSA for creating this platform to discuss the urgent need for student affairs and services, and for allowing us to remember that if there's one thing that our countries can continue to advocate for, It is to prioritize the holistic well-being of our learners at the core of our education system. The Commission stands with everyone here today and with the Philippine government to continue making mental health a priority. We will continue to address this by ensuring that student affairs and services remains accessible to our students so that they may be able to also do their best for themselves and for other people. Thank you very much to APSSA. May God bless us all.
Thank you very much, Dr. Aldrin, for that very comprehensive presentation and also for reminding us to connect, to contribute, and to have that sense of compassion as we all deal with this kind of situation, and for highlighting also the importance of mental health, and for the assurance that student affairs and services will still be in the forefront of assisting our higher education institutions. Thank you very much again, sir. All right, let's move on now to our next panelist, now from Malaysia. May I call in Dr. Azizan Abdullah from University of Technology, Mara.
Hello. Okay, thank you, Dr. Leandro. Very good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It is a great pleasure for me to be a panelist for this APSSA conference. Thank you very much for the organizer. Today, I would like to share the University of Malaysia experiences for student affairs services in the new normal, okay, challenges, reality, and opportunity. So I'm Azizan Abdullah, Deputy Vice Chancellor Student Affairs for University of Malaysia. Okay. First of all, I would like to share with you about University of Malaysia. We call UITM. It is a public university. The main office is located in Shah Alam, Malaysia. It is about 15 kilometers from Kuala Lumpur. The biggest university in Malaysia with 35 state campuses and almost 18,000 academic and non-academic staff. We are the biggest university in Malaysia. Offers more than 500 academic programs ranging from foundation to postgraduates. Current number of full-time students close to 170,000. Alumni, more than 800,000 currently. Next, please. Okay, this is our philosophy. Every individual has the ability to attain excellence through the transfer of knowledge and assimilation of moral values so as to become professional graduates capable of developing knowledge, self, society, and nation. Our vision to establish UITM as a globally renowned university of science, technology, and humanities, as well as entrepreneurship. Our mission to lead the development of agile professional Bhiputra throughout state-of-art curricula and impactful research. Next, please. This is selected UITM branch campuses. Out of 35 branch campuses just now, I just show you 6 selected campuses. We have UITM Selayang, we have UITM Shah Alam, the main campus. We have UITM Puncak Perdana, UITM Tapah in Perak, we have UITM Pasir Gudang in Johor, and UITM Puncak Alam in Selangor. Next. Okay, this is challenges I would like to share with you. The first one, number of students to be managed during movement control order. We have very big number, close to 170,000 students. So during movement control order or lockdown, it's big challenges to us to manage the student, to ensure their health, good, their emotion, and so on. Yeah. Then secondly, student well-being in terms of food. We provide them food 3 times a day. The security, the emotion. We need to ensure they are not in depression, as well as their health care during pandemic. And the third one, sources of funding to bear the cost incurred. We are lucky because Malaysian government provided the cost to cover food as well as the transportation for the students. And then sending students to their hometown is another challenges. We have about 10,000 students left. And then how we are going to send home to their hometown safely. This is quite tough for us because we want to ensure they are safe when during traveling from the campus to their hometown. And then number 5, signal are very weak in certain areas. In remote sometimes the signal not very good, because during the pandemic time, we use online program or online teaching and learning, so they need to have very good signal. Okay, this is the challenges we are facing. Okay, now realities. Number 1, during MCO, the majority of students decided to leave the campus and return to their hometown. When the national government declared the MCO, majority of the students, they make a decision that they need to go to their hometown or went back to their hometown. Secondly, however, almost 10,000 students remain and stay in the campus and at the rental houses outside the campus. This is where we need to manage them, 10,000 in terms of their food, their securities, their healthcare, as well as the emotion. We need to deal with this, yeah? And then third one, UiTM took care of student well-being in terms of food, security, emotion, and healthcare for 3 months, from March 18 to June 2020. It is a quite long journey for us, yeah? Then number 4, all students were able to be sent home by end of June 2020 by bus and airplane. So this is the funding came from the national government. They support the student fares and so on, so that the students are able to go back home safely. Number 5, UiTM provided special funding to the student for their data plan and a discounted rate for hostel fees. This is where we are giving them 120 ringgit per student, okay, for 3 months, so that they can go through the teaching and learning through online, and also the hostel fees, we give a special discounted rate for the students. Okay, and then opportunities out of this, use open and distance learning approaches for teaching and learning for all students. Nowadays, we are approach ODL, open and distance learning, whereby the student need to have the Wi-Fi at hometown, and they can go through the teaching and learning through online. Yeah. And then secondly, establish of standard operating procedures or SOP of faculties and branch campuses. So we make it mandatory for them to have SOP to ensure that the students are safe when they are returning back to the campus, or staff as well, they are safe. They need to follow the SOP in the new normals. The third one, activation of a university disaster operation committee to monitor the COVID-19 pandemic, started in March 2020 until now. We are still active for the disaster operation committee, and we always monitor the COVID-19 pandemic in the campus. Next. Okay, number 4, work from home is permitted to all staff on rotational basis, where we permit them to stay at home, and at the same time we manage the productivity, okay, of each of the staff. And then number 5, university monthly operating costs reduced because no student in the campus at the time, so we managed to reduce the cost of the operation for the university. Number 6, establishment of networking with airline and telecommunication company. This is where during the pandemic, during the MCO, airlines, Malaysian Airline and private airline, they collaborate with us to give a special rate to the student if they want to fly home. And also the telecommunication companies, they give also the good rate or discounted rate if the student use the Wi-Fi. This is where we think we have the opportunity to collaborate with the companies in the future, right? All right, thank you very much. This is from Malaysia. Back to you, Leandro.
All right, thank you very much, Dr. Asisan, for that sharing and for providing all those opportunities to our participants today. Thank you very much, sir.
All right, thank you.
Okay, so we've already heard the perspectives of our administrators, also the practitioners, and even decision makers and policy makers of the different higher education institutions. Now it's about time for us to hear also the perspective of our students. So first in line is our representative and analyst from Singapore. Our first student to speak, Mr. Richard Wang Kai.
Hi, good morning, everyone. It's good to see all of you here virtually this year. I'm Richard from the National University of Singapore. So in the next 6 minutes, I want to share with you a snapshot on the state of Singapore students and how they are relevant during a pandemic situation like what we are having now. Then I'll discuss on the trends in student movement and advocacy that I observed since Singapore's massive outbreak in March 2020. And finally, I'll touch on how we can be an active agent for student affairs and services to thrive in the new normal. So let's deep dive into the first segment. Over here, you see diagrams, a lot of diagrams. The one on the left and center is actually the time series study conducted by the National Youth Council every 3 to 5 years since 2002. And these studies are conducted on more than 3,000 Singapore youths. The one on the right-hand side is an independent survey conducted by the National University of Singapore to explore the stresses impacting students and student activities. So barring the ranking, we actually observe similarities between both sets of findings. Namely, we know that students are concerned and stressed about future uncertainty, about emerging responsibility, and about academic concerns. Some important consideration and how it's relevant is that how may COVID-19 exacerbate each of these factors? That's the first. Secondly, we need to think about how we can cushion the impact of these factors. For example, how can we tackle anxiety from academic disruption and isolation from friends? How can we reduce academic workload and recalibrate our grading system? And thirdly, it's about whether we have a good enough crisis and management, emergency management plan. For example, what is our crisis communication strategies? How do we contain and trace close contact for a single event, for a local cluster, and for a mass infection across the university? And then, how do we have, whether or not we have administrative organs for professional and peer support in mental health, in domestic violence, etc. So that is the first part. Next, I'll zoom in on some of the student-led initiatives that took the stage during COVID-19. Personally, I'm very heartened by a resurgence of commitment among my peers towards deep-seated social, economic, and environmental issues. So students actively advocated for physical and mental wellness during COVID-19. They organized HIIT Zumba sessions over Zoom, and we replaced annual charity marathons with virtual runs. We had cooking contests on social media. We had virtual tea appreciation. We had book sharing sessions. And we all know that staying active and engaged can improve other dimensions of wellness. On a broader landscape, students were passionate about inequality and underprivileged and our relationship with the environment. For example, homelessness. Circuit breaker in Singapore and the movement control order in Malaysia have forced many of the people to remain in Singapore during this period, remain in their homes. And we see a spike in divorce, we see domestic abuse, all these statistics going up. And all these have led to increased homelessness across the nation. In terms of migrant and frontline workers, students understood that these are underappreciated people in our society, and they have contributed tremendously to essential services. So we prepared care packs, we wrote thank you notes on public appreciation walls. There were social media campaigns and Zoom sessions with migrant workers who stayed in our community recovery center on campus. So students led language classes and exercise workouts for these migrant workers who stayed in these facilities. And thirdly, in terms of climate change and environmentalism, COVID-19 has paused student life and curriculum activities. So now students have more headspace to rethink about our carbon footprints, food security, and our climate actions. For example, in hostels, we see students promoting reusable food containers when they are not allowed to dine in the facilities and could only take away food and their meal plans. Now, let us explore the unparalleled education disruption. We must consider how disruptive innovation can also at the same time pave the way forward. In terms of educators, it has been so many years since the university last had a university-wide e-learning exercise. And honestly speaking, some of the faculty members who were previously resistant towards webcasts, webinars, and blended learning are now forced to review their pedagogy and adopt technology-focused delivery. They must also recalibrate their assessment criteria to cushion the aggravating stresses among students that we have previously discussed. In terms of learners like myself, our assumptions, beliefs, and expectations were challenged by unpredictable externalities. And that means that we not just have to be adaptable and resilient, we also have to be agile. We must keep pace with the rampant changes in delivery modes by different faculty members, the change in assessment components, as well as EdTech. For example, the exam proctoring software that we use during our final examinations. Some critical concerns that we must consider as key student leaders and as administrators is that the level and rate of digital adoption across different demographic differs as well. In particular, how can we ensure that students from lower income families can acquire Wi-Fi and mobile devices for remote learning? Can we provide exception for those with unfavorable home conditions to return on campus for learning? Next, we need to take care of the proliferation of cyber crimes and abuses. So that means that our technology-empowered learning must couple with greater media literacy among students. And lastly, we need to consider whether our reliance on digital solutions will result in a paralysis of learning and assessment when the systems break down. So Winston Churchill reminded us that we should never waste a good crisis. Indeed, we have discussed extensively the disruption of COVID-19 on student affairs and services. Now, as countries regain control of the pandemic and tend towards new normal, we must be reflective of the merits and how our institutions can emerge stronger. I offer 3 points. The first is that a great university or an education institute is an incubator for new ideas where thoughts evolve and are debated in a safe environment. In our intellectual pursuit and in shaping the society at large, we must remain open and transparent to underlying differences, and we must embrace them. So across virtual student activities, we see more participants in some, but not all, events. Notably, we were able to yield a higher turnout among international students in our recent freshman orientation because they were no longer constrained by geography and the issuance of the student's permit by the government. Thirdly, students have a hierarchy of needs. This pandemic enables every institution to distinguish our core functions from the value-adding, non-essential but good to haves. The lesson learned is whether things can be done differently, could have been done differently in the past, and whether we should shift our focus in the future. Many times I find that it's not a matter of possibility, but a question of resolute. Like the example of old school faculty members that I mentioned just now, who were against webcasts, webinars, and blended learning. Sometimes if we want it to happen, we will find a way. So with this quote, I conclude my presentation today. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much, Richard, for that sharing. And we have really seen how important the role of student leaders are in this kind of situation. Thank you for emphasizing that, Richard. All right, so we move on now to our last presenter, to our last panelist for today. From Thailand, I present to you Ms. APSSA Saeli.
Good morning, everyone. My name is APSSA Saeli, and I believe right now I am probably the youngest among us. I am 22, and I'm in my last year of my bachelor degree. And as Dr. Ian has introduced myself, I actually came from an orphanage background and currently working with a lot of children coming from residential care and also working in the university as a teaching assistant and studying. So I am also going through myself with a real insight of what does student go through in this global pandemic. So I would break my speaking into three parts, which is the preview, the effect, and then the opportunities, which the preview is basically the realities, the impact that has happened from March to present. So in March, we all were overwhelmed, we were unexpected, we may not have the full online preparation, and everyone is affected economically, and they're in their living, shops are shut down, and people don't really know how to properly react. So the government actually set up an organization or a center called the Center for COVID-19 Situation Administration, which is a headquarter of announcing preventive measures, transmission, and also daily updates of the total cases, the recoveries, and the total death. And we have an application called Taishana, which is very effective because from the cases and from the duration of COVID-19, we have seen drops of numbers, and also people who got COVID-19 quickly tracked down, because the application is where everybody have to scan before they enter any public events or buildings, or especially for like malls, universities, even 7-Eleven. So it's a very useful for the people, for the university, which the university also adopt the same type of way in our university, so that people can scan, can have their temperature checked, can wash their hands, and follow the regulations and the measures. So in the first phase, definitely the online system was not fully complete. We as a student were in our final week, and we were preparing for final exam. The method of exam were completely different. It may not be the best of measuring how much we've learned, because we have to do it through Zoom or Microsoft Teams. But definitely in the second phase, when this is a summer break, students and professors are trained. We are provided with ITSC, or the Information Technology Services Department, that help train the practitioners, the professors, of how to use all these platforms, whether Zoom, whether Microsoft Teams, Google Classroom, or any other type of online platforms. And the students' orientation for the freshmen were also through YouTube Live, and the parents' meeting were through YouTube Live, and those who can attend the events are with safety procedures. Ceremonies are limited to numbers, and only representatives were allowed. So with the second phase, we also, because we're preparing for the next semester, the university provides SIM card, because we believe that there will be students who just cannot access Wi-Fi from their homes, or because we will do online classes. So we provide SIM cards, and those who are lack of tools like laptops or iPad, we also have them provided or discounted rate. And then the third phase, which is since July until now, which is the where we have online and on-site classes with social distancing and practices of COVID-19 transmission and protective measures. So then we move into effect, which is the challenges, whether direct or indirect, short-term or long-term. I really appreciate all the speakers before me who emphasize a lot about like finances, stress, about mental health, about our well-being, and definitely parents suffered. And as an orphan, I support myself, and it was a very overwhelming time. But I really thank the university for discounting the tuition, and also I thank the organization in the city that offers a part-time job for me, and also the university create this teaching assistant, research assistant, and other university like little part-time jobs that we can earn money. But definitely there were many people who could not go back to work. And so with all the supports that we have talked about, they are definitely methods that are short term, and currently that we are facing this, I believe that we should also have funds that are kept for future emergency cases such as this. And there are donations that came in from many places, businesses, professors, people who are civil societies, foundations and stuff that donated into the university for free meals for students. And I actually were one of them who received those free meals. And with many people who have said about lack of interactions and the challenges that relates to psycho-emotional destruction, this is because this is a fast transformation of how we behave in the new environment, the new normal, and definitely cause self-harm. And during this period of time, there are many cases, whether close to me or people, even myself, with suicidal thoughts or depression or doubts of how the future would be like, as I am graduating soon in March. And my friends have already graduated. So in opportunities, I am really excited because we have all given out ideas, but definitely I hope that we can have more emphasis on life skills and social skills, even in this new normal, because I think currently, from what I am currently doing as well as a student leader, there is a need that I feel from mental health. So we are actually, with my professor and we are creating mental health workshops. As a Christian, we're from a Christian perspective for the 3rd and the 4th year students, and as well as working with private organizations, doing life skills training for youth in residential care or youth in orphanages. So by doing so, we are, for myself, my case, and I also am discussing with universities in other countries, for example, Nanyang Technology University in Singapore. We are talking about possible collaborations and students exchange, which may come from the online platform first, from engagement, from local exchanging of like the context of the social issues that is happening in the other countries. And currently in Thailand as well, with working with youth in residential care, I am able to develop projects and curriculum, lesson plans, finances, development, administration, and every skills that is needed to develop and to be a student leader, basically, which I believe that every student can engage in this type of outside classroom activity through projects that they do for the community, for different social issues that are raised during this COVID-19, and even those that are already existed prior to the COVID-19. So, and also in the university, I believe that right now we need more social workers and we need more psychologists. And as students should be the manpower that goes into the society that can train people. Not only do we train them, but they can train people in the society, and they can help create workshops, counseling, and anything that deals with the social issues we're facing. And this creates an experimental learning, definitely with different students from different faculty, professors from lecturers from different faculty. It creates an interdisciplinary learning. And the university right now has opened a lifelong education where everyone from every age can access to classes and learning in any field that they are interested. So to conclude, I really I am excited, and I hope that not only do we have this webinar, we actually have a follow-up, we actually continue to discuss whether between universities or in a collaborate group, or create even student platform that with students talking to another students to engage and exchange ideas, and to focus more on our well-being alongside with academic progress. So to conclude, I really thank you for the opportunities. It's an honor as a student as well, and I hope we can learn from each other and creatively produce new ways of dealing with this new normal. Thank you very much for listening. Thank you, APSSA.
All right. Thank you very much, Sarah, for that very comprehensive sharing also of your experiences. And it's really refreshing to hear the perspective of our students, especially on how they acted upon, in response to this kind of situation. We have really seen how our students are very mobile and how they made this situation work for them. Okay, that's really nice to know. Thank you very much to our panelists for today. And just to share with you some salient points that I was able to gather from all our sharing for the second batch. First is that the flexible delivery of student-to-person services is also very important so that you'll be able to complement and support the flexible learning modalities that we are all in. And also providing emphasis on the psychosocial support for the students. It is also important for the institutions to have a crisis and risk reduction policies in place. And the student empowerment is really a very big help. The role of the students in ensuring a vibrant virtual student life experience and still considering social engagement is going to be a big help for the institutions to make sure that their students are still okay. We also need to embrace diversity and inclusion and putting in mind also the different situation of our students and the importance of giving change a chance. Because it is still possible for us to deliver the services in this new normal, and we just need to be very creative and innovative to be able to extend our functions for the development and welfare of our students. So once again, thank you very much to our panelists. And now we move on to our question and answer. We have actually collected 2 questions already. If you still have other questions, you may still drop them in our chat box. But let me first acknowledge the first question that was thrown from the Philippines given by Mr. Marvin Gabatin. Hi, I'd like to know how you are doing about getting students engaged in virtual activities. Since students, especially in our context, are new to this virtual delivery of student services, very few are getting engaged in the activities that we organize online. Your experiences would be helpful. Maybe our 2 students, Sarah and Richard, can share their experiences on how do they engage their fellow students in activities online. Richard, Sarah, will you be willing to answer the question?
Yes.
So how do you make them engaged?
Okay, so from my perspective, I think the creative platform that we can use, we can actually create applications. So there's actually another application called Flip app where you can take videos and send and interact with another classmate or professors or teachers. And this is not popular yet, but definitely I think we can use this in the university level. We can publicize them through social media like Facebook, through Instagram, through Line, which is a platform that students like me really engage more. And how can we make subjects or classes or visual activities interesting in the eyes of the students who join? And as a student leader myself, we can also engage and form a group of students who are interested, and then we bring friends on. And yeah, so I hope I answered your question.
Yeah, it's really more on maximizing where the students are, right? The platforms where the students are, and making sure that you are also there so that we'll be able to capture them and gather them. All right, thank you for that, Sarah. How about you, Richard? Do you have any insights on that question?
Okay, thanks for the question. I think for us, and I think a lot of the staff from the Office of Student Affairs in the core as well will agree with me that I think in the past we always had the practice of carrying out social media campaigns and initiatives on Instagram, for example, and Facebook. So right now it's just pumping more of these activities online. But having said that, I think we don't see a spike in participation across all initiatives, but we do see some unexpected turnouts for things like, for example, the cooking contest, right? That we didn't expect so many people to be taking part, and the responses were quite overwhelming. Another component that I think I want to discuss is about programs wise. So not so much of events, but things like orientation program, when everything from a physical format became a Zoom session. But I think in general, students and both seniors and freshmen still enjoy themselves. They were very creative in hosting, in doing breakout sessions. And also, as the measures loosen a bit, they can gather outside of their homes in small clusters. So that sort of like smoothen the isolation and get people to know each other in smaller groups within the measures that we have. Yeah.
All right. Thank you for that, Richard. I think that's going to be very helpful if you get to know also what the interests of the students are, and you bank on those interests, right? And you build up activities that will really promote those interests. All right. Thank you very much. For our next question, coming from Ms. Alisian from Malaysia. To all the panelists, while taking care of your students, how do you take care of yourselves and your teams during this challenging time? Or maybe any of our panelists can answer, because I don't think we have enough time for all of to go, one by one. Any from our panelists? Yeah, it's really more on how do you take care of yourselves and your team. Anyone?
I'm happy to speak to that. Certainly, it's a challenge. I will say that because, as I said in my presentation, compassion fatigue and vicarious trauma is quite possible with our practitioners who are supporting students who are experiencing the same uncertainty and the same challenges in their environment as the practitioners themselves. Key to our well-being was to ensure that we keep, and this may sound somewhat simplistic, but to keep the conversation open between your teams and to ensure that there are times for lighthearted moments. During the times when we were working from home, we actually scheduled morning teas, virtual morning teas, into our diaries, which would be a Zoom catch-up where you'd have your cup of coffee, your muffin or piece of cake, and you're virtually connecting with your peers on a casual basis to break up the day. While it did contribute to Zoom fatigue and constantly staring at a screen, it was a more of a lighthearted moment and people could relax. Similarly, Friday afternoon, the last hour of the working day, we would again connect to debrief the week that was, have some laughs and talk about the weekend in ways that were relaxing. So that was while we were working from home. And what we found is when returning to on-campus operations again, people have wanted to hold on to those types of activities as best they could to maintain that level of connection. So certainly in the institution that I came from, there was a lot of positive feedback from our team that said those engagement activities actually helped them through, particularly when we were sharing our tidbits around, sharing our own experiences around how we are managing lockdown and the little activities that are keeping us occupied, and whether people have got into Netflix or whether they've got into some aerobics or cardio class or gardening. It was sharing those personal experiences which had long-term benefits for the team. So there's some perhaps simplistic but really effective measures that we did to look after ourselves as a team.
Yeah, all right. Thank you very much, Dr. Christie. I think that is also very important, right? Okay, one last question. We have one last question here. Aside from evaluation, what other tools do you use to measure the success of your programs or services delivered? This one is coming from Ms. Calma Maranya from the Philippines. Or have you ever done any evaluation already of your programs delivered during this pandemic or during this kind of new setup? Or are we considering evaluation as a top priority right now? Anyone from our panelists?
This is Jamie from Hong Kong. We use a very simple method because we can, the Zoom system also record the time the participants stay in the activities. So aside from doing evaluation, by looking at how much time they still stay with the activities can somehow tell you how successful your activities is.
Great. All right. Thank you for that, Ms. Jamie. But I guess, yeah, many institutions are still in the process of developing tools, perhaps, on how they can really develop, how they can really evaluate the programs being delivered during this kind of setup, because it's also something that we need to consider later on. Okay, so I guess that wraps up our panel discussion for this morning. But before we end our session, I would like to call on another APSSA EXCO member to share a very important announcement to all of you. Ladies and gentlemen, let us all welcome Dr. Jonathan Monroe.
Thank you very much, Ian, and greetings from Griffith University in Australia. As Miss Angela, the President of APSSA, said earlier, we were unable to go ahead with our APSSA conference this year, and so we're proposing now to have our APSSA conference in 2021, and the proposal is that it would be in Australia at Griffith University on the Gold Coast. So this is just a very quick date saver for you. It will be from the 2nd to the 5th of November. As I said, on the Gold Coast campus of Griffith University. And look, we're hoping that all of you will be able to join us in 12 months' time, face-to-face this time. So thank you very much, Ian, for that. And please put that in your diaries, and hopefully the Executive Committee will be able to confirm that conference at a later stage. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Dr. Jonathan. So again, to our members, to the APSSA members, we intend to have our international conference next year in Gold Coast, Australia. So aren't you going to be very excited for that? Okay, so hopefully by then we can really have the face-to-face sessions already. So thank you again, Dr. Jonathan. And for our participants, yes, we will be sharing copies of the slides. You will be receiving that in your email, the one that you used to register for this webinar. So again, I would like to thank all our panelists for today for sharing their insights, their experiences, and most especially their sharing the best practices that they have done in their own institutions. Again, from Australia, Dr. Christy Wai, thank you very much. From China, Professor Wu Haifan. From Hong Kong SAR, Ms. Jamie Chow. From Japan, we have Dr. Michiko Izumi-Tani. From the Philippines, Commissioner Dr. Alvin Darila. From Malaysia, Professor Dr. Azizan Abdullah. From Singapore, Mr. Richard Wangkai. And from Thailand, Ms. Akisara Said. Thank you very much, everyone. I will now turn you over to Joshua.
Thank you everyone for being here today, and I think for all of us who have been listening in, we definitely have benefited. I think for me personally, it's interesting to see, though we come from different countries and different backgrounds, but some of the practices that we have been doing is very much similar, and also there are new things that we can actually pick up from, and we can use it to adapt to our own countries and our own institutions also. So on behalf of Methodist College KL today, we'd like to thank you for being a participant today, and definitely APSSA would like to thank each and every one of you, from the panelists to all the participants, for being here today. And we hope that what has been shared will be of help and benefit as we continue to work amongst different groups of students from all around the world. So thank you very much and have a nice day. And a reminder for all the APSSA members, please remain in the room. We will put you into a breakout room shortly for the APSSA AGM after this. So for the rest of you, we are done for today. You can go out and have your coffee, have your lunch. And for the APSSA members, just remain here in the room while we arrange for you to go into a breakout room for the AGM.